Part One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to another episode of Art One-on-One. I'm your pod boss, Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Yes, I am here.
Another day. Another podcast. What number are we on?
30 something, 31, 32, 30, 31. I don't know. I don't keep track as well as I probably should.
I think you do. Well, we'll start with our normal segment, which is Ask the Art Guides. And I have pulled a card for today, and I pulled Leonardo da Vinci, which is interesting because he's very popular, but yet I don't know a lot about him. And the phrase I like is the inspiration. I'll let you break it down, see what you think. It says, look into research like you would a crystal ball.
Look into research like you would a crystal ball. Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense when you look at Da Vinci. He did a lot of plans and sketches and things like that were, a lot of his ideas were very cutting edge, beginning of technologies, whether you're looking at human anatomy and human dissections and that sort of thing. You're looking at...
Wait, did he do?
Yes.
He was into dissecting human bodies?
He had...
Anatomy?
He had permission from the church to be able to do human dissections.
For what reason did he have permission from the church?
To study.
Why? From what I understand, he was, like in your video, it says he was an illegitimate child, so he was like stripped of being a doctor and things like that. So why would the church grant him?
Because he felt like as an artist, he had to know everything. Unlike other professions, he felt that the artist had to know how science worked, how geography worked, how geology worked, how every science worked. The Renaissance, the time of Da Vinci, is literal. It is a renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth. It's a rebirth of ideas from the Greeks and the Romans. A focus on science, how the world works, not just religious ideas, but ideas of, again, how the universe works, how the world works, how science and technology work. And if you look at his sketches, he would do, again, dissections to find out how does a baby grow, how does a fetus grow, how does an arm work, how do your fingers work, how does how does a bird fly? Why can't humans fly? How can you make a device that can help? Is there a device that can help a human fly? Are we able to do that? He developed ideas for a helicopter that didn't work, or machines that would allow us to do all kinds of things. And so he developed a lot of things before things were developed, as though he was looking into the future.
Well, and I mean, he sounds very intelligent, but from their perspective back then, as far as because he was an illegitimate child, they wouldn't give him certain rights or certain privileges. So it really surprises me that the church would let him do something like that. If in every other way they, what's the word I'm looking for? What word am I looking for? I'm losing the word. Like
bastard.
I know the word bastard and I know the word illegitimate, but
I mean, the world works differently now. I mean, it doesn't matter. Your parents' marital status doesn't matter to your successes
I'm not talking
anymore.
about now.
But
I'm saying why why did they scrutinize? That's the word I'm looking for. Why didn't they scrutinize him in one respect? And he couldn't be a doctor, and he couldn't be this, and he couldn't do this. But then the church turns around and says, "Sure, go ahead and dissect these bodies that have passed and these spiritual, and do whatever you want with them."
Well,
Because,
it wasn't that. It wasn't do whatever you want with them.
well, if you're dissecting them, you're doing whatever you're wanting with them.
No.
As far as dissecting them, I'm not talking about anything.
He wasn't
Literally.
he wasn't doing anything he wanted. There were certain things that he was doing. I mean, there was certain like, for example, there was a woman that had died giving birth. He was given permission to do a dissection. And his sketches and plans not only are very famous of the baby that had died, but the mother that had died. And doctors of our time can tell you exactly why the baby died and exactly why the mother died based upon the detailed sketches that were done by Leonardo da Vinci. He would take the skin off of arms and see how the tendons worked and see how the body worked.
And I get what you're saying, but you're still not.
This was a
answering my question.
dangerous thing because Da Vinci found out how things worked in our body. He found out how the heart worked, and he made a prosthetic heart. He made a heart that worked, that was not alive, by studying how the blood would circulate through, and he could get it to contract very much like a human heart. And again, these were kind of cutting edge things, and Da Vinci was on one side allowed access to do things that other people might not, despite his social status, but also because of his research and his standing, and the people understood what he was able to do. I mean, he was.
If that's the case, then why wouldn't they let him be a doctor? They'll let him rip open people's bodies and dissect them, but they won't let him be a doctor.
Well,
This doesn't make any sense
doctors
to me.
didn't, back then, that's not what doctors did. Doctors didn't rip open bodies.
I
Doctors
said they
did not
would let
perform.
him dissect and do things like that, but they wouldn't let him be a doctor.
Yes, but doctors didn't do that. That wasn't a job of a doctor.
I didn't say it was.
Medicine was very different than it is in our world today, and I can't pretend to understand all of it and all of the inner workings of it, and how doctors got permission or not permission, or how he got permission or not permission. All I know is he was given permission, and only a very few people of that time got that permission. He got it. I know that. It's documented. Michelangelo Buonarroti also got it. He hated it. Made him sick. He wouldn't do it. He tried it a couple times and it made him sick. He wouldn't do it. But when you look at the anatomical drawings of Da Vinci versus Michelangelo Buonarroti, I mean, Michelangelo was a sculptor of sculptors. He was absolutely fantastic, but did not do the study of anatomy that Leonardo da Vinci did. Not even close.
So looking at this, it basically says look into research like you would a crystal ball, meaning he uses research to look at what the future is or what the future holds. That's what he's saying, right? Which makes sense if he's pulling apart bodies and trying to figure out how the body works. And
I think you're focused on one component of what the card is saying and what I'm saying. I mean, you're focused on the anatomy, where it's not just the anatomy. He developed a machine that was a kind of a gliding winged machine before flight was allowed. He tried to develop a helicopter before a helicopter existed. How to make an army tank. How to make machines that would be used kind of as an auger to lift water up to a higher level. all kinds of machines that did all kinds of tasks that weren't even developed yet. He created, they say he created telescopes before telescopes existed. He developed all kinds of scientific devices before these devices existed, even though he is not given credit for many of the things that he.
And he had no formal education or
No.
higher education or anything like
No.
that. It was all based on
his own
experience and his own.
putting things together and thinking through problems.
Yeah.
And they also say that he would have been ADHD type personality, very jumbled, and he would jump from project to project without really completing things. We see that a lot in his art. He would have been the type of person that was, they say, dyslexic, just by his tendencies of writing and things like that. They see dyslexic tendencies, and so there are what we would in our world today call deficiencies or disabilities with how he learned things, but one of the most brilliant minds of all time in art and science. And so to discredit his discoveries and his scientific nature is kind of a sad deal, really.
Makes me think of the movie The Accountant. You know how like there's this guy that takes in these autistic children and like in his home and tries to teach them and educate them and find like the positive side of that. What do you call it? A disability? I don't know what you.
Yeah.
And in reality, some of them are the most brilliant people behind these computers and machines, and like they just have these brilliant minds, even though they have this disability.
Yeah.
It's just finding that.
Well, I mean, I think it's all perspective. I think people want to label certain things that they don't understand as a disability, when really sometimes it's the disability that allows your brain to work in a way that allows you to do work that you need to do to better perform at your job. I think as a person with dyslexia, as a person with a lot of those same sort of tendencies and disabilities, labels as disabilities, I think that there's also, I don't think I could be the artist that I am. I don't think I could be the educator that I am. I don't think I could be the person that I am without those things. For better, for worse, there's that.
Speaking of Leonardo da Vinci, that's actually the video that I went and researched this past week into the archives. So journey into the archives. And I don't remember the specific name of the video, but it was on Leonardo da Vinci. It's like a 15-minute long video. That's
probably the video titled Leonardo da Vinci. But there are, strangely enough, two videos titled Leonardo da Vinci. There's a short video and then the regular video that's titled Leonardo da Vinci. So I'm guessing
it's the longer one.
It's the longer one.
It's interesting because of like the Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. I mean, I don't want to really admit this, but I didn't even know he was the artist behind those. Because I don't pay attention to things like that. The Last Supper is everywhere. My grandma's house, my parents' house, seems like everywhere you look. But
Last Supper is a pretty famous one. I'm sure you recall the Dan Brown book, The Da Vinci Code.
I mean, I know of the Da Vinci Code,
which focuses on the Last Supper. And
did we watch the movie The Da Vinci Code?
I tried to watch it years ago, and the movie,
it was awful.
All respect to Tom Hanks, the movie did not do it for me. The book was so much better. But there again, I think it's I think when you have a movie that's a lot of dialogue and explaining artwork, it doesn't. It works a lot better as a book than it does as a movie. I don't know. Maybe that's me. But to the point, there are certain clues hidden in the paintings. You know, some people say that the Mona Lisa is Da Vinci in drag, and it is not. There are people that will say, "Well, how do you know it's not?"
Well, it can be their own interpretation. I thought that's what art is. It's someone's own interpretation.
It is, except we know that Mona Lisa, we know the root of it. And if you go back and watch my video, a little call to action, as they say, go back and watch my video on the Mona Lisa. I break it all down and explain to you the origin story that's probably the most accurate as to where Mona Lisa came from.
In your opinion?
No, it's not. None of it is my opinion. None of the things that I say very few of the things that I say in my videos are my opinion. You'll find my opinion in the video on Robert Ryman. That's full of my opinions of how much a piece of not very good artist he is. But most of the other pieces in my videos, again, I can't say everything, but most of what I say in my videos is not my opinion. It's not my facts. It comes from reading books. It comes from reading articles.
Reliable resources.
It comes from credible sources of people that dive into the research of what these things are and need to be, not just me saying, "Oh, this is what I think." There are people that have said that Mona Lisa could be Leonardo da Vinci in drag. There are people that have said that, but that has been disputed by the leading experts time and time and time and time again. And there are more reasonable explanations to the painting than that. Not that that's impossible. It's just not as likely as these other explanations.
I did not look at the detail. Like I've always, I've seen The Last Supper, and like I said, so many places, but I've never really looked at it. You did bring out like details in the video that I thought were. I mean, I think it's interesting how much detail, and they talk about the emotion that was in there.
I would imagine that Leonardo da Vinci, for most people, is a recognized name in art history. They recognize him and maybe the science stuff that he did. But again, as I've stated before, Da Vinci was it was hard for him to finish things. It was very hard for him to finish things, and that's why there's only a handful of paintings that still exist that he worked on. I believe the number is 8. There are 8 paintings by Leonardo da Vinci that still exist, but even the works that he completed, it's a very, very, very small number. And a lot of that is probably because he experimented and he tried, and like The Last Supper itself was an experiment that failed, which is why it's falling off a wall. There are paintings that are way older than The Last Supper that are still in pretty okay shape. But in his own lifetime, Leonardo da Vinci had to go back and fix The Last Supper because he was trying to make an oil-based plaster paint. Now, plaster is, or fresco is water-based, and oil is oil-based. And he was trying to have the vibrant colors of oil with the technique of fresco, and so he put them together thinking this could work, and it didn't. And it literally peeled and fell off, was starting to fall off the wall. And so there is no piece or portion of the Last Supper that's up there. Well, I shouldn't say no, but there's very, very small percentage of the Last Supper that was actually painted by the hand of Leonardo da Vinci. It's all been repainted and redone and all of that. And again, within his own lifetime, he had to go back in and retouch things. So he was always experimenting. It was hard for him to follow through with projects. And I guess at the end of the day,
Did he? I mean, you say he did all these things before other people. Why didn't he get credit for those things?
just because, I mean, he wrote them down in his sketchbook. And at the time of his death, it wasn't like he was spreading the news. Hey, everybody, I developed this thing called a telescope. I came up with a plan for he came up with a plan for a helicopter. Well, he never made it.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't know if it would work or not. He made a glider that's very similar to a glider in today's world, but he never tried it out. He never made a prototype of it. He just said, I'm pretty sure this would work. Now, had he made it, he would have found out that it didn't really work perfectly, and he might have been able to modify it to actually make it work. Obviously, that remains to be seen. That never happened. But what we do know is that he came up with plans for things. He never made models of those plans. He just made designs, never the actual thing. And some of the things that he made plans for and even small prototypes for in the eyes of the church were dangerous. The idea that you could make a human-made heart was against their beliefs.
Right.
You're going from making artwork that is, a painting or a drawing or a sculpture to making organs. Now you're playing the part of God and in the eye of the church at that time. And so there's none of that. And when he died, a lot of his sketchbooks and things like that were basically censored. And they claim, now nobody knows this for certain, but they say that there are pages and pages and pages of Leonardo da Vinci's sketches and sketchbooks that had gone missing that are now in the possession of the Vatican. The Catholic Church has them in their archives, and they will never release them because of how dangerous they are to be out there. And they've had them this long, they're not going to release them now. But again, that kind of gets close to it gets really dangerously close to the ideas of conspiracy theory stuff. And I don't like a lot of conspiracy theory things. But it's plausible that his sketchbooks were edited because somebody determined that there was too much stuff in there that allowed people, to put together some sort of Frankenstein type person, take a kidney out of my body and put it into your body. Well, those kinds of things happen all of the time in modern medicine.
Right.
But those were ideas that originally came from Leonardo da Vinci. And, writers eventually came up with other fictionalized versions of that, like Frankenstein or whatnot. But in reality, he thought this could happen.
He was well ahead of his time.
And he was way, way ahead of his time in a lot of respects. But so that's our card, and that's our journey into the archive. And now we're going to jump to something a little different.
Right.
A different little segment. I don't know that this doesn't really have a title. The segment doesn't have a title.
We're just trying out to see how we feel it works within the podcast.
And last time we talked a little bit about the artist Henry Toulouse-Lautrec
hmm
because it was his birthday last time. And so we're jumping ahead. We're already into the month of December, if you can believe it. And December the 1st is the Day with Art Day.
The Day with Art Day.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
So basically, I think that the Day with Art Day is a day where you just are with art. You know, you're thinking about art and you're exploring art and you're thinking about art. And so my call to action of my loyal friends and followers and viewers and all of those folks is to jump on to go to a Art 101 with Mr. Burgher and just search a topic, maybe something, an artist or a time period or a piece of artwork or something that kind of catches your eye in there somewhere. Of course, you can go down there and check out the stuff by Da Vinci or whomever, but jump in there and take a look at something that just kind of grabs your attention and send something to a friend. And throughout the day today, you'll notice that there are all kinds of messages that are popping up from me. Every hour today, there's a little pop-up of a different idea or a different concept that's going to be kind of spread to you. And so that's in your. So when you look through your feed, if you're on YouTube, you'll see every hour that there's another pop up, and that'll go the better part of the day today. We'll send stuff out, but otherwise, just kind of explore on your own and check it out. And I encourage you to just spend the day in some little piece or part, exploring art, learning something new about an artist. And
who would be the artist you would spend the day with?
Like
Today, if you had a choice, if you would just spend the day with any artist you could, who would it be?
Any artist that I could?
Any artist.
What if they were dead?
It doesn't matter.
Would they be alive?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't, like, if I had to, like...
Oh, my gosh.
Like, if they were...
You drive me crazy. Any artist,
like
if you had to spend the day with them.
Zombie Leonardo da Vinci would be...
gosh.
I wouldn't want to hang out with zombie Leonardo da Vinci or his remains. Did you know
Well,
that,
you and Leonardo could dissect him.
Did you know that nobody knows where Leonardo da Vinci's remains are?
No.
It's true. They don't know where he is.
Why?
I don't know. I think
Did he not want people to know where he was?
I don't know. I think he was cremated and they lost him. But I don't know.
So, living, if the artist was living, who would you choose to spend the day with?
If I could spend the day with any artist, I would spend the day with my children.
I know you would spend the day with your children, okay? So I get it.
Brooklyn and Hank and Brody and
Okay,
Etta,
I'm asking a question.
they are my favorite artists.
Okay.
But let's say I had to pick a different artist that wasn't them.
A famous artist.
A famous
Well,
artist. And I can't pick myself.
you're not famous.
Well, elementary kids think I'm famous.
They're highly confused.
They are. Boy, a famous artist. Who would if I could hang out with a famous artist?
Leonardo would have been a cool one to be with within that time, just because he was so ahead of his time. And I wonder, like, how many of the things that he focused on and researched and whatever didn't get, like what was in his mind. Ooh, I think he would have been a cool person to hang with for the day.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, probably Leonardo da Vinci would be cool, but Leonardo da Vinci, I don't think I'd pick him.
Maybe you should tell us who you would pick.
Well, it would be hard for me to narrow it down. If it was just for the day and just like for fun, I would probably pick Frida Kahlo.
She would be fun.
Because Frida Kahlo would be fun. She could tell stories. she was wild,
Feisty.
wild and feisty. She would have been fun. She would have had the best stories.
Yeah, that might be one of my tops too.
She would have been entertaining to
Knowing
hang with.
what very little I do.
I think Frida would probably be way at the top to hang with for a day. Her perspective of life and tragedy and trauma that she had gone through in her life, the obstacles that she faced as a kid, having polio disease, kind of becoming this feisty young woman who came into her own and was...
She was a free spirit, but yet she was like confident and knew what she wanted. And
But there again, she was very conflicted about a lot of things. I think there was a lot of conflict. Like she wanted to be confident. She wanted to be these things, but she was also very insecure about things. And she attempted at every turn to turn the tragedies of her life into something that she could overcome.
right.
And I have a lot of admiration to her for that. I mean, there were lots of, don't get me wrong, there were lots of horrible things that kind of surround and blanket her story, but I think that there's yeah, Frida Kahlo. I'd probably pick Frida Kahlo.
And that would be your who you would spend your art day.
If
What was the title of? What's the day?
Day with Art Day.
Day with Art Day.
If I could hang with an artist on Day with Art Day, it would be Frida Kahlo. And you're in the comments, tell me who you think you would spend the Day with Art Day with.
Or how you would spend art day. That's what I was just.
Or
trying
how
to think.
you.
What would I do?
Or how would you? How
You
would
could just
you
spend a day?
Yeah. How would you appropriately celebrate Day with Art Day? What's the appropriate method of celebration for it? I'm sending out messages to people. Hey, look at these videos. Hey, Frida Kahlo. Boom, boom, boom. But maybe there's a better way to do
Would
it.
smashing art be an expression of?
Depends on who you ask.
That's like a thing going on right now. Like you go into like a room where you can just break stuff and throw stuff, and I think that'd be kind of cool. And then you can create art with it.
I think that's.
That wouldn't.
I don't think that. I mean, there's something about an artist having the release of breaking their own work. That's something. There's a video that I did on Robert Rauschenberg erasing a de Kooning. The story in a nutshell is Robert Rauschenberg, who was an unknown artist, went to a quite famous artist, William de Kooning, and he said, "William de Kooning, can I have one of your drawings?" And William de Kooning said, "Well, why do you want it?" And there's a whole video about this, and the video is actually told by Rauschenberg. So it's not me telling the story; it's actually Robert Rauschenberg telling the story. And I took interviews throughout because he told this story throughout his whole life, and so it's taking clips of all of these different stories, the same story, through multiple versions of the story and kind of putting it into one package. At any rate, that's down the description. At any rate, he goes to de Kooning and says, "Can I have a drawing? Because I want to erase it. I have this idea for a project and I want to erase one of your drawings." And he said, "Okay, I'm going to find the most difficult drawing. I'm going to find a drawing that has crayon and all of these different materials, and that it would be so impossible for you to erase that you couldn't do it." Mm-hmm. And he does it. He erases a de Kooning, and he ended up. Robert Rauschenberg had it's a famous drawing that's a non-drawing called Erased de Kooning by him.
Did he video the process or
this is
track the process or
he went through a number of erasers using different types of erasers for different products.
But he didn't document.
This is like
just the end product. You can just see
the
beginning and the end product.
You don't even see the there's probably
you don't see the beginning product?
There's like videos of the beginning, or not video. There's like still images of the beginning, but like photos or whatnot. But it's just
that to me seems a little
there's just the end product of
which is nothing, a blank canvas.
Which is just a blank piece of paper.
I mean, I could see how that would be,
but like you've seen somebody that's done a drawing on a piece of paper and it's been erased.
Right.
I mean, there's kind of like a
faded,
that faded underneath to it. So there's like indentions in the paper and all of these sorts of things that are like in the paper, but that you could never get out. But yeah, the drawing is a non-drawing, which is kind of
and it's art, which is just like the white.
It's not like the white. It's not. It's actually the opposite of that, because it actually started out as an artist by a trained artist, not by a guy.
But it didn't end that way.
Not just by a guy. And even the erased part was an artist who was a trained artist. The eraser was an artist who was a trained artist. Not a guy that had a job as a security guard who said, I'm going to paint this because I can't paint anything else.
The funny thing is, anyone could be an artist today. They would not have to go to a school or.
You're right.
There's so many ways to become.
There are. There
without having formal.
You're right. But the trick is not to
bypass.
Well, the not necessarily the bypass. The trick is how do you, in today's world, anybody can become an artist. If you want to be an artist, then you're pretty much an artist by declaring it. But in order to be considered a serious artist that's has your work in a gallery or a show or whatever, you have to have some level of credibility to what you do. Somebody has to look at your work and say, wow, that's interesting, or wow, that's thought-provoking, or wow,
but you can have your own art. You could have your own art room, art exhibition, and then someone could see it, and you still would not have to have any formal training. You could. You just would have to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that likes your work.
Absolutely. And the hard part is if you want to be in that position of showing your work and talking to somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's going to say, yes, we're going to do that for you and put you in this show, then having something to show for your work rather than a blank piece of paper.
It worked. It worked for him.
Well, yeah. I don't, but I don't think it would work for everyone. It worked for someone, but that doesn't equal it's going to work for everyone. Like, how many people do splatter paintings?
I didn't say it would work for everyone.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have done splatter paintings, but unless your name's Jackson Pollock, they probably aren't going to put it in their gallery. You can throw paint on a canvas from a million different directions, but unless your name's Jackson Pollock, it's probably not going to sell for big money. Why did because Jackson Pollock, that's how he became known.
Yeah, but what made his different from anybody else's? Because it is just paint splattering.
His technique, his way of doing it, his approach, and being the innovator. What makes one thing different from another? It was the first one. And sometimes when you're the first one and that's how you become known and you make it popular, And
that was his role?
To some degree, yes. Some degree, yeah. But who knows?
Well, I think we've exhausted.
Yeah. It's been a long day.
We've exhausted, what I want to say. We've given out all the art, knowledge, and content we can for the time being.
Yeah. I guess I would just ask people to see if it's in their heart to go to down into the comments if you're on the YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe, interact, do all those things. And feel free to look at all the other content that's in there. Check out all that stuff. Act as you feel like you should. And if you see a video that's in there, it would be awesome. Hey, I found this. Share it with somebody who you think could learn something from it or benefit from it. And that's how the channel grows. That's how I can grow. That's how you can grow. And any sort of input or insight that you have on things that I could do or content that I could build or things that we could add to this podcast.
Yeah, you're just in the process of figuring out what you're
we're just
make videos on for next year,
I mean,
correct?
yeah.
You're in the planning stages right now.
I'm developing a lot of different things in terms of content ideas. And
You have been working diligently on that.
So we'll see what develops, but your input would definitely help in doing that. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching and sharing and all those things, and hopefully we'll see you next time.